We are going through the AFC South. The Tennessee Titans are not afraid to take chances on players, and especially not afraid to take chances on injured players, and they do so with their first pick in Caleb Farley.
And sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, they're a team that seems to either dismiss red flags or are completely unaware of red flags on players, as was the situation with Isaiah Wilson a year ago. Yeah. We'll see what happens with Caleb Farley. I mean, here's a guy who's had multiple back issues, multiple back procedures. Back injury aside, I just never thought he was a top 10, top 12 pick as people were projecting. He's a long, explosive corner who flashes ball skills, but he was never the true shutdown corner at Virginia Tech that a lot of people were making him out to be. And you have people who go back and watch the Notre Dame game from 2019. He played well at times, but there were also a lot of lapses on the field. He's got a high upside. I mean, the question with him is, are those back issues over? Or are they going to rear their ugly head? And is it going to be another situation where the Titans dismissed red flags that other teams are not willing to take up on, and you're either going to have a real good corner on their hands, or they're going to have egg on their face.
Yeah, and then they followed that up. They went on the offensive side of the ball with somebody who, when I watched him, he just reminded me of a backyard brawler. That is North Dakota State offensive tackle Dillon Radunz.
Yeah, and if you've ever get to speak with him, he's really impressive interview. He's a guy I spoke with for about a half an hour. Somebody I think all the football teams he's been on since he was 16 years old have lost like 2 games. And the 2 games that they lost, he wasn't even on the field. He was injured. The blindside protector for Trey Lance, a guy who played well at the Senior Bowl, someone who projects to multiple positions, played left tackle, can be used at guard, may be able to play right tackle, which is where I think that the Titans are going to try and use him. He's a guy he's not only has a good amount of upside, but he's a get what you see type of player in the sense that I think he's NFL ready. I like this pick by the Titans a lot.
Yeah, and they followed that up. They went back to the defensive side of the ball and went with Monty Rice, the Georgia linebacker.
A little bit earlier, I think, than most people thought. Monty Rice coming into the season was graded as a top 45 pick by scouts. Didn't play all that well in 2020. Had a lot of injury issues. He's a smaller run and chase linebacker. I think he fits the system real well. You can use him on the inside. You use him in pursuit, which is where he's best. He's got to learn to make plays moving in reverse, although he's not bad in coverage. But I think at the very least, he's someone that can be used as a rotational inside linebacker for the Titans.
And they followed that pick up, stayed on the defensive side of the ball, and went with Elijah Moulton, the cornerback from Washington.
Yeah, cornerback or safety. I actually like him at safety. A guy who's a terrific football player. He's got great ball skills. He's very intense, incredibly instinctive, outstanding in coverage, also gives it up against the run. But the fact is he's small and he's slow. I mean, he runs and he plays in the mid to high 4.5s, which is what he timed during his pro day. He's under 5'10". But the fact is this, if you use him correctly, he does have physical limitations, but if you use him correctly, he's going to be a real good football player for you.
Agreed. That he was one of my favorite just football players to watch throughout this cycle. Dez Fitzpatrick, the wide receiver from Louisville, was up next.
Yeah, a tall, short-handed guy, not really fast. Runs decent 40 times, but is not football fast. I'm surprised he went as early as he did. Was really good in 2018, seemed to kind of level off since then. Got a decent amount of upside. I think you're looking at a 4th-round pick who they hope will be a number 5 receiver at the next level.
And then after that was Rashad Weaver, the Pittsburgh defensive end.
I mean, what do you say about Rashad Weaver? He gets arrested for, I believe, was assault just days after the draft for an incident that happened 10 days before the draft. Another situation with Tennessee where they just don't look good. The optics are not good. I don't know if they had any advanced knowledge as to what was going on with Rashad Weaver. I don't know if other teams had advanced knowledge, and the Titans didn't, because the general manager, John Robinson, comes out the morning when it was revealed that Weaver had been arrested for assault, and he says, "We just learned about it this morning in the news," which is, it's the whipped cream on top of a horse. You know what? I mean, to make a statement like that, just say we're looking into it rather than we just found out about it. Just not a good situation. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Rashad Weaver. Everyone's entitled to due process, so we can't sit here and claim he's guilty. But it's just not a good look with the Titans, with what happened with Isaiah Wilson. They take Caleb Farley in the first round. If they don't win or they don't continue to win, it's moves like this that get general managers fired.
Yeah, and then the next pick was LSU wide receiver Racey McMath.
Guy who really came on last year, bigger, short-handed type of guy, someone who really is a lot like Dez Fitzpatrick. They lost Corey Davis in free agency to the New York Jets. They still have some good receivers there, but I think this is another wideout that they're hoping will add depth at the position.
And an amazing name. It doesn't seem like a real one, but it's definitely a fun one for sure. They finish off their draft with Brady Breeze, the safety from Oregon.
And he doesn't really play like a Brady Breeze. I mean, if you watch him play, I mean, he is a headhunter out there. He is a guy who is tough, who is nasty. He's not the finished product. I'm surprised he got drafted, especially after opting out last season. But I think with Brady Breeze, what you're looking at is his ability, is his value on special teams, specifically coverage units. That's what you're looking for. I think he's got a high amount of upside. Don't know whether he makes an active roster or he finds himself on a practice squad this fall. But again, with Brady Breeze, it's all going to come down to how he does on special teams.
Were there any free agent signings for the Tennessee Titans that really stood out?
Yeah, there were a couple of them. I mean, they signed 𝗍𝗠 Jones, the defensive lineman from Michigan State, who I thought would have been better as a defensive tackle in the four-man front. 𝗍𝗠 Jones, after his sophomore season, looked and was graded by scouts as a potential third-round pick. The problem is his play has regressed on the field. He's an athletic guy who can be an overwhelming force, but the problem is he seems to pick and choose, when he wants to play. Now, there were some issues. He comes from a tough background. Let me put it that way. I don't want to say issues because it makes the player look bad, and that's not true at all. He comes from a very tough background. He's had to overcome a lot. Hopefully, he'll be able to overcome and really get back to where he was in 2018. I like the pick of Justice Reed. Anybody who knows Justice Reed started his playing career at Florida, then went to Youngstown State, played last year at Virginia Tech. I mean, in a couple of years, he's going to be collecting Social Security checks. That's how long he's been playing college football. But the fact is this, he is a terrific edge rusher. He is a guy who gets up the field and makes a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage. That was an interesting selection, as was Mickey Sargent, who I think could be a fifth running back if they're going to keep five running backs on the roster. He's a quick, explosive inside guy who also doesn't do a bad job catching the ball out of the backfield.
All right, that was the breakdown of the Tennessee Titans draft.